Hello, Star Wars and unboxing fans. Welcome to another episode of Darth Tuba's Star Wars Unboxing Show. Be sure to check out all my videos and my playlists on YouTube, and my Darth Tuba Star Wars Unboxing page on Facebook, my Instagram and Twitter pages at Darth Tuba, or just email me darthtuba77@gmail.com. So we're once again on Last Jedi kick with a couple of different items. We have, of course, a few more Hot Wheels. I almost want to say Matchbox. I don't know why. I think I grew up with Matchbox, but we've got the First Order Executioner as well as Finn's car, and then we have two Hot Wheels ships. We got the Ski Speeder, Pose Ski Speeder, and the Resistance Bomber, and then we have a 2-pack with Rey and the Elite Praetorian Guard, and then kicking it back to The Last Jedi, to Force Awakens, with the rathtar and Balatik action figure, which I'm going to use on the Force Link to see what kind of stuff they're saying. We'll actually have a good idea too of what they're saying. I don't think they're going to be in The Last Jedi. I'm pretty sure they're not, but we'll see. Okay, so actually I'm going to not start with this one. I'm going to end with this one. So let's start with the, kind of in the order that we said. We'll start with the cars, okay? I know that judging by the views on my videos, most of the time we don't seem to have as much interest in there's not as much viewership interest in the less the less expensive stuff. But considering that I don't have unlimited funds, I can't go after only expensive stuff. So all right, we got our Finn car. I don't know, there's just something about cars. I mean, growing up, there were times before, there was a time, kids, that Star Wars didn't exist. And for many people, there were some basic toys when there wasn't like a movie tie-in toy. There were basic toys. There were blocks. There was a ball, okay? Bouncing ball, whether it's a super bouncy ball or a rubber ball or just like a sports ball, like a baseball, basketball, Nerf ball. And then there were cars. It was Matchbox and Hot Wheels. And we, growing up, my brother and I, we played a lot with Hot Wheels. And remember, we had a, my Force Link just went off. We had a molding piece that was something that you would put up on the ceiling to kind of give it decoration, molding piece. And my father bought that for us. Just went to, the lumber hardware store, picked one up for probably $1. Maybe $2 at the time, and then brought it home, and it was like 6 to 8 feet long. And we would let it sit in the basement, and then we would set it up. We'd tilt it so that one end was up on a shelf or something, and it went down, and it had grooves, and we could just take the cars and line them up, and boom, instant racetrack. So we had a lot of fun with that. It was such a simple thing. So I recommend that. I know Hot Wheels comes out with all their little tracks and everything else, but if you go to a Home Depot or any kind of like lumber store, you can find any kind of molding pieces, thin ones, bigger ones, that will, for just a couple of bucks, you can just get that and set that up in a basement if you have a little path, and everything could be like that. So I love the Finn look. Okay, similar to previous, it's got the jacket colors. Okay, so that's cool. And then we have the First Order Executioner. Curious about that. What is that all about, being an executioner? But I like his look. It's a little different. It has a little bit of an altered marking, some black pauldrons and shoulder pads and things of that nature. So they incorporate them into here, and we have them together. I don't know if they're going to cross paths, but pretty cool stuff. Let's move on to ships. Let's start with the Resistance Bomber. We opened up the TIE Striker the other day. So this one, oh boy. Once again, I just lost the stand, I think. What did I do with the stand? There you go. Getting away from me here. Excuse me, folks. Sometimes it happens. Now, I noticed on the TIE Striker, there was a little issue trying to get the stand to cock in. Oh, but I guess it's all right. Now, this one looks like it lines up like this. Pretty cool. Curious to see what kind of stuff they do. I just heard, spoiler alert, that the Resistance might actually have a Star Destroyer, its own Star Destroyer, whether it's one they came up with themselves or they commandeered from the Empire. It'd be really cool to see if that's true, and if so, how much screen time it gets and that type of thing. And then we have the Pose Ski Speeder, which is, I think this is the item that, if I'm not mistaken, this is the item that we saw in the previews. Those of you who watched the trailer, or I should say preview, the preview. If you watch the trailer, it's the one that glides along that salt flat type thing and actually scrapes up the ground, and it makes it be makes all that red dust kick up. So that's cool. And I'll tell you something about that. I not only love that because it's cool to see so much red, because we don't see a lot of that other than, like, think about it, throughout all the Star Wars movies you don't see a lot of red. The only red you really see, predominant red, is the Imperial War Royal Guard. It seems like they're bringing that color back a little bit for this movie, so that's kind of cool. But I think another reason why it is that red dust, and again, for the youngins, you might not know what this is. The older people would. It brings me back to the original V miniseries, where the aliens that came in from outer space, and they pretended to be our friends, and they look like us, but you turned out that they were lizards. They tear off their face, and you see they'd have lizards, and they were trying to harvest people for food and take all the water. And I think in the second series, the V: The Final Battle, the humans ended up being able to find a toxin. They created a toxin that was deadly to the visitors. That's what they were called. The bad guys were called the visitors. And the bad guys, their uniforms were all red, and ironically, so was the poison, the toxin. They called it the red dust, and it looked a lot like that dust that was kicked up in it. So my brain was going into two places. It was cool to see more Star Wars, new Star Wars coming out, but then it also, to me, was like a throwback to the V series. So that's pretty cool. And the ship is really cool because it has a little bit of a B-wing fighter kind of vibe to it. It's a horizontal ship like that. It has the cockpit on one side and the lasers on the other, and it just has this scraper on the bottom. So it definitely looks like something that they would have been inspired by that. Okay, so good job. All right, cool. All right, moving on. We have the Elite Praetorian Guard and Rey in Jedi Training. Now, we already opened a Rey in Jedi Training, but this is going to be a different Rey because it comes with a playable feature. And again, some people argue, what kind of playable feature? That usually they come with like a cannon. I think this one comes with some type of a cannon, some type of thing. And yes, I recognize that Rey probably wouldn't be using that, but at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, it is a toy. You got to have some playable features. You know what I mean? Otherwise, a lot of people want to display them. A lot of people want to play with them. So you want to have the options. So for those of you that, that's interesting. The Praetorian's Guard sword comes into two. Well, that's cool. It's almost like nunchucks or something. You can. Oh, that's cool. All right, and we got our. Okay, and we got our little rifle here. And I'm gonna actually. It's like a little backpack for Rey. I'm actually going to look at the box here because I don't quite get how this works. All right, yeah. We had a similar thing like this with Rogue One where the arm was meant to... Sometimes they make toys that I think are kind of silly, but then sometimes they make toys that I think, oh, God, I hope they do that in the movie. This is kind of cool. It kind of rests on her shoulder. And it's got a little handle for that. So that's neat. Now let's see if they solved an issue. And apparently they did. Putting these little, there's a cool factor when you have this item. Okay, we got our holster. Let's do this. I do like if I can get all of the accessories onto the figure, only because otherwise then I'm almost definitely going to lose the accessories. All right, and I'll tell you why while I'm getting this set up. If you've seen my video recently, if you look back on a few videos ago, you'll see that I did a tour. I gave out a tour of the, let me see if I get this standing. Okay, I did a tour of my Star Wars collection in my basement area, and there was a section that has all of my loose figures, like most of my loose figures, and they are all set up in these little plastic cases. They're like little plastic clamshell cases, and I, was very organized. I worked on, putting them up. I even cut out when I took them off the cards. I actually cut out the name of some of the figures because they were like aliens and one-off figures from like the Clone Wars that I would never remember who they were. I'm not talking about Obi-Wan or Anakin or anything. I'm talking about like an alien that was in one episode that you only saw once. And frankly, I like to collect, but I'm not always going to remember every single name, especially if their name's not said in the show or the movie. So I try to keep a record of it by just sliding the name, if it's an unusual name, sliding that into the card. So the package that I put together, and I just display them on my wall. I used kind of a panel separator and taped them to the wall, and then I could just kind of tuck it on each of the levels, and there was just a whole bunch of levels. It was great. The only problem is that this is the basement, and the basement gets humidity, and then it dries out. When that happens over and over again, this was up against paneled wall. You can't really nail into paneled wall without having issues. So I was taping with like duct tape, and eventually, after a few years, the duct tape started to dry out, and the weight of the figures pulled away from the wall, and then they all fell. Not all of them, but like a row of say 20 figures fell, and then they fell to the ground, and their shells opened up. The clam shells opened up, and then figures went this way, and weapons went this way, and titles went this way, and it was just and stands and accessories all over the place. So it was a challenge to try to. It's like a puzzle. In some ways, it's kind of fun to try to put it all back together the right way. But I can pretty much guarantee I had a few pieces left over, so I just kind of put them in my accessory pile, and that's all that we can do about them. So I like it, but I do have to say that the loose collecting can also have its share of issues like that. So anyway, now lastly on this one, let's get this guy in here. Okay, I guess. Yeah, there we go. The Elite Praetorian Guard. I'm not sure how the Elite Guard is different from the regular Praetorian Guard, but maybe they're always elite. Maybe they're all like this. It's funny. The 5-point articulation, it does something I like. The legs kick up like this, and the Luke figure I did last episode did the same thing. It's kind of interesting. So, but it helps keep them sturdy. So that's nice. And the other thing I wanted to do is let's see what happens. Oh, that's the thing. Okay, pretty cool. I guess the Praetorian Guard doesn't say anything. Interesting. It's interesting that this ray doesn't say anything. Okay. Well, as I said, it's a unique technology. It's definitely sound-wise better than the other one. Better than the comm chip back in the day. Although I still like the comm chip. I think it's kind of neat. Oh, so now she's doing what I was afraid. She's going to lean. She's leaning to the right. Sorry, to the left. To your right. Come on, Ray. Let's go. There we go. All right, let's finish it up with the rathtar. I'm surprised that it took this long for the rathtar to become a thing. You know. Although I sometimes think about that because there were only 2 years between Force Awakens and Last Jedi. And when you consider the fact that one of those years was also Rogue One. So there wasn't a lot of time in between movies for them to make new product. And that's an important thing to consider because the product, you know, when you're making product, there's an 18-month turnaround before you can do it all. So, all right, we got Politique. Oh my goodness, this looks like, oh, you know what, Ray, I'm gonna keep you up against here. Yeah. All right, well, gotta get my trusty blade out. There we go. All right, come on. There we go. Got this dude out. All right, that's all we got for that. I'm gonna actually put this back. Oh dear. Yes, I do not keep most of the boxes. Sometimes if there's really good art on it, I will, but more often than not, I do not keep them. It's funny, like, I don't know if these are built to scale, but the body seems a little smaller compared to what we saw in the movie, although even if it was, I mean, can you blame it? I mean, okay. Oh, we have letters. Good. All right. So how do we know what letter it is? Okay. We're back. Han Solo once said, hunting rathars isn't easy. I can understand that. I respect that now. This was by far one of the hardest toys to put together. I'll explain why. It is essentially made up of a rubber, not rubber, vinyl, whatever kind of plasticky, but pliable type of material is the ball that makes up the body of the rathtar. And the legs are made up of similar plastic. And each end of the legs have a little, basically a little kind of bulb that can, in theory, plug into each of the holes. And I'm not 100% sure if they're all kind of the same or if there's one leg for each one. There was a letter for each one. There was an A, B, C, D, E, and A, and there was a little map showing you where to go. So I wasn't sure if this was something that was part of that. In any case, it got to the point where it's not very sturdy when you put the legs in. It just isn't. So it's not so bad when you're doing the first one and you can hold the whole rathtar in your hand like a ball and stick the first leg in and really make sure it's in solid. That works pretty well. Then you do the next one, then the next one. But once you get into like the 6th, 7th, 8th leg, you start having to grab your hands around it and the pressure of your hands, maybe this works better for small hands, I don't know, but the pressure of your hands against the legs that you already put in starts to kind of wiggle them out. So you get one in, then another one falls out. Then you get that one back in and another one falls out. And it can be very frustrating. It took me a little while to get this working. But now that I have, and I'm almost afraid to pick it up, but we'll start with Tasu Leash.
You're a dead man. The rathtar has escaped! Take the droid! The rathtar has escaped! Take the droid! Find cover! Take the droid!
Some lines that weren't in the movie. And it sounds like he might have actually... Did they actually show... No, they didn't show him dying. Because he was the one that once the Millennium Falcon escaped. He was the one that wired, that used comlink to let everybody else know. Now, do I hook this up? I don't even know. Okay, that was a probe droid. Okay, that is a hilarious error on the part of Hasbro. So the rathtar, there is another playset like this, which I'll do an unboxing for at a later date, which is the Probe Droid and Darth Vader. They had the rathtar programmed to sound like the Probe Droid. Interestingly enough. Okay. I suppose, you know what's funny? I should point this out. Sorry there, Tasu. Remember, I'm going to call you the other guy, Tasu Leech. Balatik. He's really got to stay up there. Come on, stay. Funny thing is this. When I bought these toys, they asked me if I wanted a warranty on them. And I thought, why would I want a warranty on an action figure? I mean, unless the limbs are going to fall out. But I think they meant some of this. Maybe the electronics made it, kind of allowed it to be under the umbrella of that. That is hysterical. But anyway, as a toy in and of itself, I would say this. Your children are probably, anybody, Tasu Leech, man, what's going on? I keep calling. Balatik. Stay up, come on. Be manly, there we go. I'm going to say that this rathtar, great display piece. If you're going to buy it with the intent to display. I mean, you can buy it as a toy, but if you do that, I would recommend glue gunning or crazy gluing the legs to the sockets. If you do that, be aware, figure out the design you want, because you won't be able to move them again. Okay, although it's plastic, you'll probably be able to tear them off. You're definitely putting damage to the toy if you do that. But so far, I guess it's holding together pretty well. Maybe they kind of expand as it goes, but I'm not going to bother trying to turn the limbs or anything. I'm leaving it like that. Boom, done. All right, so overall, some cool stuff. Let's see if I can get Ray to stand and not lean. Oh, there you go. Okay, good. Maybe she just needed a little coaxing. All right, so a really cool variety of different toys. Some really cool things going on. Loving the Hot Wheels, both the ships and the die-cast ships and the Hot Wheels cars. And the figures are great. I know the 5 points of articulation sometimes annoys people. I like it. I think it's good. Most of my displays are basically just stand-up displays anyway, or I put them in those clamshells, so for me it works. Rathtar, be careful. It will, those limbs are not steady, so just be aware of that. So that'll do it for this episode of Darth Tuba Star Wars Unboxing Show. Again, check out all my other pages, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, email, YouTube channel, and playlists, and I will see you next time. May the Force be with you.